to episode 16 of the Bithell Games Podcast. I'm Alexander Slawinski.
And I'm Mike Bithell.
Each week we talk games, what it's like to make games, and the random stuff we don't generally find time to talk about because we are playing and or making games. We also try to have guests regularly on the show, and this week we've got... I don't know yet, because we record... we're recording ahead of time because PAX East is in town for me, and I'm going to head on over there with a microphone and see if someone wants to talk, so I have no idea how my body will handle it. I may be paralyzed by the options available to us of people to talk to. So anyway, we'll do a regular show right now and put the interviews at the end if something comes up. But I don't promise this to myself or to you.
Do we have a contingency? We should probably record a version of the podcast where there are no guests. We're very sorry that we couldn't get any guests on the show, but thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thanks.
That'll work. You can use that at the end.
Some show notes. Shout out to Kit Kat. There, I've sorted my subscriber shout out obligation for the week. Welcome to all the members of the Kind of Funny community who've recently found our show, so thank you for that. And if you're a Google Play Music user, you can now find the Bithell Games Podcast show on Google Play Music. So you can stream it. And so now we're on the iTunes, we're on the Googles, we're on the YouTubes. Now we just need the Twitters to have an embedded thing, and we'll be sorted.
Superb.
Okay. So, what are you playing this week, Mike?
What am I playing this week? I've been playing the Uncharted... What's it called? The Uncharted HD Collection, the thingy they did.
The Drake Experience.
It's the Drake Collection. It's the Drake Collection. So I've been playing that. Got it when it came out. I think I played the first Uncharted and then like a very small part of the second one. And I've just been through and I basically played the second game over about 3 days. And yeah, it's weird going back to them. They do hold up, and more than I would have expected, actually. And they feel very, very open. The gunplay, I'd forgotten how good that was, although I suspect they might have tweaked some things when updating it. And much less corridory as well than I remember. I remember Uncharted being a game that very much led you around by the nose, and I'm either my expectations of corridor games have gotten even tighter since then, which is a very real possibility, or I was being unfair because it's very it feels fun. It feels fun to explore. It's super weird. The one thing that I kept doing was trying to was kind of wanting to press the button that shows me where to go. It's amazing how that has now become a thing, that there is in every game either a button that brings up a waypoint or a button that brings up like some kind of, view mode where everything you have to interact with is glowing yellow or red. And it's weird playing a game that doesn't have that in now.
I like that button though.
It's a useful button, right?
I like the Dead Space ping the ground button. It's
great. I mean it's weird because for the first time I got stuck in Uncharted 2 in this version, I remember being like really annoyed. And then when I worked out where I was meant to be going, it was just this lovely feeling of like achievement, which I just don't get in any game anymore because every game always tells you where you have to go next now. It is progress, but it's weird how enjoyable it was finding the right path. Although I did have to check, I think I had to check a guide for Uncharted 2 twice while playing to, where am I meant to go now? What am I meant to be doing? So it's been fun going back, and yeah, all the performances hold up. I can see now, because I remember when I played Uncharted 1 and 2 originally, I think it might even have been before I I was young though. I was, very early in my career. And I can see now, the edges, I can go, okay, so they only had a mocap studio this big because they're always grouped together in a certain way, or they clearly only had that actor for one day because they only got a very small amount of content for them and things like that. I'm looking at it more as a game developer now, which is always an interesting way to go back and look at stuff. But yeah, it's been fun going back, and obviously I'm super excited about the next one.
I remember Uncharted 2. Does Uncharted 2 hold up? That's what I think. I can't remember if Uncharted 3 irritated me because they just put all the Abobos in there, which is my go-to example from Double Dragon back in the day. Abobo was the big dude that would come out, and all I can remember about Uncharted 3 was the fights against the big dudes, and somehow
there are noticeably weirdly big characters you're fighting, which is strange in a photorealistic game. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I remember about Uncharted 3, that like the antagonist, I don't know, maybe she found some like Swedish gulag to like like find incredibly tall dudes to fight for her. But that's I remember the plane scene.
I've not got there yet, but I know exactly the moment you're talking about.
And I think there was like an Irish castle or something like that. Like I'm
very early in 3. I
can remember Uncharted 2. Like,
yeah.
That's the thing. I can remember Uncharted 2 really, really well. I should really go back and play Uncharted 3 again, because
I think that was the criticism, that 3 was the crazy budget and the crazy, like, they just threw everything in. I remember that being criticism at the time, but I've only just started 3, so I'm enjoying it so far, and I will report back on this very show at some point.
I have been playing the Battleborn Beta.
How's that?
It is interesting.
Okay.
So it is Gearbox's take on the MOBA.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a balance of Team Fortress 2 and Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm. Like, it is another interesting take on MOBAs, and if you haven't been completely given up on MOBAs or trying to find the MOBA that's right for you, go ahead, check out Battleborn. It's interesting. It certainly leans on many of Gearbox's strengths, which is shooting, gunplay, those elements, and a really fun writing. There's just that Borderlandsian absurdity comes through, but it is tighter, and it's great. So I've enjoyed the dialogue in Battleborn, and legitimately chuckled a few times at things that the characters say.
That's super cool.
And then, of course, I continue my path in Stardew Valley.
Oh yeah,
I have now entered the fall.
Okay.
There was I went to the Harvest Festival, which is called something else, and I showed off my fruits, my golden fruits, and I got second place.
Oh, good for you!
And I got a fedora. With my second place, I was very, very happy.
That's very exciting.
I'm scared because winter is coming, and you can't plant in the winter. Unless you can in Stardew Valley. I legitimately don't know. I'm so like spoiler free of that game. I'm just going through it and enjoying the experience, and it's so relaxing.
Yeah, it's really gotten under your skin, that one. You seem to really enjoy it. And it's interesting to me as well, because your expectation when you started, when we first talked about this game, was that you were gonna, and honestly my expectation, knowing the kind of player and indeed human being you are, I assumed you were going to kind of create kind of an incredibly logical factory machine. Like you were basically going to be the bad guy in every 90s cartoon, kind of showing up into this lovely environment and building like a working machinery kind of approach to this. And it seems like you've not done that. It seems like it's not a game that it's not been a game that you've wanted to solve in that way with your MBA approach. Or
don't get me wrong, I'm still making $3,000 a day.
And that is a very tangible and real world thing that you should be very proud of.
No, my character's not eating ramen. Like we're doing well.
Okay, no one is insulting your fictional character's finances.
It's doing all right. He's going to the mines. He's collecting various gems, delivering those gems to the Explorers League, getting some money back from killing all the slimes and the bugs, selling those bat wings back to them, then selling or donating the gems, then getting the free trinkets you get from delivering things to them. So I've got a bee box that I got for free, and my sprinklers are set up very efficiently to sprinkle the fields every morning, so I don't have to do any work there. But
I take it back. You're uncurable.
It's okay. It's interesting because there's so the game starts with you working for this, faceless corporation type of thing. That's why you decide to move to Stardew Valley. And this I think it's called Jojo. It's Walmart. But there is a Walmart in Stardew Valley, and it's taking customers away from Pierre's little shop that's in town. Now, what you can do is you can become a member of the Jojo Club or the Joja Club, and they'll bulldoze the community center and turn it into a warehouse. Now, I don't know if that's what actually happens, but that's the premise. So if you want to truly go down that path, you can absolutely, go and get this membership club, and they'll destroy the community center, and you probably will be quote unquote better off. But no, I'm going to support my local shops and community, because I can make my own money. I don't if I'm making my own money, I don't have to buy shirts for $2, right?
So what you say? you say you're a wealth creator. That's what you're. I thought one day we're going to claim you for socialism. One day it's going to happen.
So yeah, Stardew Valley, great. Pick that up. Hey everyone, this is Alexander. I'm here at PAX East, and I found myself a Douglas. Hi Douglas. Say your name, what you do.
Hi Alex, my name is Douglas Bogart. I'm the co-founder of Limited Run Games.
And we're doing stuff with Limited Run Games. We've announced that we are coming out with a Vita version of Volume, hopefully sometime in the next couple of months, if we get through our little FQA things. So you can actually talk a little bit about that process. So what did we have to do in terms of getting a digital title to a physical release? Because what Limited Run does is currently working with a bunch of great independent developers and getting their titles from being purely digital to being physical. So talk a little bit about that process.
So when a game's already been released digitally, it unfortunately has to go through the QA process again, or FQA. So what we have to do is we have to get it submitted for a GPP. It's a bunch of boring stuff, and then we have to get product codes requested so it actually exists physically. And then we put it through FQA again, and hopefully it passes again since it's already passed once. And then once we get that going, we order the cartridges in this case, and then we design the cover and get all that ready to go. And then it typically takes about 2 months total, depending on how bad the FQA part is. So it can take anywhere from from day one about 2 months.
And so how are the fans of Limited Run at this point? When do you let them know that a title is coming, and is it a pre-ordering process? Like how does that work?
In terms of announcing, we typically, it's actually up to the developers. A lot of developers just haven't announced it for whatever reason, and we're not going to do it ourselves because we feel like it's their baby. It's not our place to announce that. We'd like to, and it hurts sometimes not being able to. Another thing they like to wait for is we like to get like a case mock-up, like a presentation. So it's not like, hey, we're going to work with Limited Run Games. It's, hey, we're going to work with them, and here's the cover. Instead of just being like, final art may not be this. And what was the other part of the question?
So I should also point out that we are conducting this interview in a hallway in PAX East, surrounded by people. So if you're hearing background noise and ambience, yeah, that's what's going on here.
A sea of people.
A sea of people. But I mean, how did you even start down this path? Because I think people assume, or maybe not even assume, just think that, you know, getting box titles is easy, but you've actually got a specialized thing going on here. So.
Yeah. Josh had the idea probably about a year before inception, but a lot of people kind of scoffed at the idea, and it just wasn't financially feasible at the time. And then about May 2015, he came to me with the idea and said, hey, I'd really like to push this, since our parent company, Mighty Rabbit Studios, was kind of like, we were starting to end our contract work, and we didn't really know what was in the future. So he said, hey, I'd like you to help me with this. Let's found limited run games and get this started. Let's start with, the idea was that we wanted our own games physical first, because we don't like the idea that our games would only ever exist digital, and if we were to go out of business, that was the only proof we ever had, was what was on that store. Sorry. And then yeah, basically, so we did it for that. And while we were doing it, we realized it is a lot of work and it is a big amount of money up front. And we realized that might be why other developers are scared. They all assume they have to have a publisher to do it, and that they have to go through like GameStop and Best Buy. But in reality, they could just put it through like a website. So we decided to start reaching out to other developers and letting them know, like, hey, we'll finance the run for you, so it's no financial risk to you. We'll market and distribute it for you and everything, and sell it through our site. And then, you know, we're pretty cut and dry on like our website about how it works. So once we make back our initial investment, it's 70-30 in the developer's favor, just like they would get in a digital deal. So it's kind of a no-brainer for most people, which is why we've been getting so much support. And again, we're here to make games. Like, we're here to preserve games. We want it to stay as a part of history. We don't like the idea of a digital age.
And that's been the interesting part, especially as game preservation becomes a hot topic issue. There've certainly been plenty of YouTube videos on it at this point, and PT, right? That was the
that great Silent Hill game.
Right. It's just gone now.
Scott Pilgrim's gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Xbox 360, it's gone. Tribute Games lost that. It's gone.
Oh no, I didn't even know that.
Yep.
Oh, that's a really good game. Okay, so preservation, important thing. So how is that sort of what a lot of the limited run games customers are interested in? Is game preservation, or is it the fact that these are limited runs? Like, what have you found is the thing that drives them to purchase these games?
Well, we found when we were selling these games that we were basically catering to ourselves. So Josh and I are both very big collectors, otherwise known as hoarders. And we also, we aren't big fans of the digital age, so we are the kind of people that if it's out digitally and it's out physically, I'd rather just own it, because I like it being displayed on my shelf. I like showing off my games. So that's the customer base we go after. And honestly, if like NIS America or anybody like that announces a limited edition that you can only get from them, we're both kind of people that will just buy it immediately, even after we're like realizing later, like, I didn't really want this, but it's never going to exist again, so I was never really able to make a decision about that later. So we kind of go after collectors that need it, like people that are like, if I don't get it now, this might be it. So, but we also do it because we want more people to have it, which is why we started introducing limits to stop somebody from having a monopoly on it. So we're not just going after collectors, we're going after the guys that really do just want to own the game physically.
Were there people who were all, like, buying chunks?
We had somebody on Breach and Clear spend $15,000 by themselves. And they had a fourth of the copies. And that was when we originally did say we didn't have a limit, but it became apparent that we had to go back on our word. And like, we couldn't allow one person to own a fourth of it.
What were they going to do with it? Put it on, just save it for 10 years and then put it on?
They made a smart investment. It's like Breach and Clear is probably going to be the one that's worth the most money. It's the smallest print run we've done, and it's not being reprinted. And the more people we get, each release, it's going to go up in price. So, but now they don't own all of them.
So now, how have you cornered the market on what is it that you are doing differently, or why is this not something that has just been out there?
I think one of the reasons is, again, money. A lot of people, it's money and finding the right amount of units to print. So a lot of people aren't going into this because They think it's a lot of money, and it is. And a lot of people assume the only way to distribute your game would be through places like GameStop and Best Buy and Walmart. And if you do that, they require ESRB ratings, which for physical are $5,000 a piece. So that kind of increases the price of your run. And then you can also end up with, if you're doing it by yourself, you can end up with backstock if it doesn't sell out. So that's another thing like we don't have to worry about. We try to print just enough. We're obviously going to keep increasing it with each game and as our user base gets bigger. So we're just right now trying to find the perfect balance, and I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to do that. And I think a lot of people like us because they know that, like I said, we kind of describe how the way it works with developers. We're making money, but we're not making as much as we could if we wanted to be a little more selfish. We are like legitimately doing this to make more games exist.
So after these, so the whole reason this is possible is because you're genuinely not going into stores, because you are selling direct to customers. So can they sign up for email blasts on limited run, or how does someone know that a new game is coming? Have you gotten to the point now where you're sort of scheduling them? What's going on there?
So they can sign up for our newsletter on our website. Our Twitter is really good, and our Facebook's good for that. We are going to get into... It's been difficult right now to confirm release dates just because of production problems. For example, Saturday Morning RPG on Vita got delayed twice because they didn't have stickers for cartridges. So we had to delay it twice because of that. So we try not to announce release dates right away until we see it's in production. So we're getting a little bit better about getting a lot of stuff submitted way ahead of time. And that way, we're also going to start trying to do 2 releases per month. And by then, we might have a more concrete schedule going on. We're just, at the start, it's a little bit trickier.
So are you on a consistent path at this point? Like, do you feel that limited run has gotten past the initial does this concept even work stage and is now really on a path of having, I mean, you're saying 2 consistent titles a month, and is that the idea going forward?
Yeah, that it's definitely well past the, hey, can this work? We already have about a year and a half's worth of titles.
Wow.
Yeah, so the only problem is production, and if there's anything that messes up in FQA, if the developer wants to pay an engineer to fix that, because that is one of the things we can't fix. We have our own guys, but if they're comfortable with us looking at their code, we can take a look, but not everybody's cool with that. But yeah, I feel probably about midsummer, after summer, we'll have a more consistent schedule.
Now, we've gotten a lot of attention from volume being on Vita. Like just it being physical on Vita is a big deal. Are your fans mostly interested in things being on Vita or how does that, what's that breakdown look like? Do you get like requests a lot more for Vita, or is it more for PS4?
So that one's trickier. I'd say PS4 is a guaranteed sellout. Vita so far takes a little bit longer, but it always ends up selling out. I'd say the Vita fans are a little bit more vocal because everyone that owns a Vita understands why the Vita is awesome. It's just all those people that didn't want to get it. Josh and I like to think the Vita is kind of like the Dreamcast of this generation. It has very niche games like you just won't find anywhere else, like on like major platforms. So the people that own it understand how good it is, and there's a lot of people still getting into it. Like people import it from Japan because they have a lot cooler looking Vitas. So the idea for us is we are going to keep supporting the Vita until Sony tells us to stop. And I just feel like if a game's cross-platform,
has Sony reached out and said thanks for like?
Well, they have, yeah, actually, because we're giving their factory workers like work. So like, there's people out there. We just don't want to get in a habit where at one point there was only one PSP factory, so like you had to schedule like a year in advance to have that printed. So we're just trying to make sure that like Sony understands that we need these like all the time. So like they should keep multiple factories open. But yeah, we're I don't see why we would never not support the Vita if it's cross-platform. So.
And as long as people keep giving those people jobs.
Yeah, that's true. I think the only time we may slow down is if we do like a really high print run and maybe it doesn't sell out as fast as we need it to. But that just means we'll scale it back. I don't think we'd ever just say no.
What do you think people don't know yet about limited run games? Like you sort of just come on the scene and come on really fast and really strong. So there's a lot of folks who still don't really know about you. You've talked a little bit about preservation as being a sort of defining aspect of the company. Anything else that you want to throw in there?
I'd say on the developer side, I think a lot of people still don't understand what we do. Because I'll have times where I approach developers and they seem kind of skeptical. Thankfully, working with some of the bigger known people has helped because it's kind of shown trust in the industry. So I still think people just assume that we're just like a fad. Because the next generation probably might be all digital, unfortunately. So a lot of people think we're just trying to hold on to like a relic. So we just really want people to know that we're trying to make history.
You're fighting the future, man.
We are fighting the future. We're just trying to stop that, or at least slow it down. And I don't know. I wish more people understood that we're doing this not just for ourselves. We are doing this for other people. We want to help developers make more money. We want to help customers get more physical things. And at the end of the day, yeah, we want to get paid too. But there's a lot of things we're doing that we could be getting paid more, but we're choosing to be extremely fair with people and extremely open. So I just hope people understand that. We're very community driven.
Well, thank you, Douglas, for doing this in the middle of PAX East, where there's incredible yelling going on in the background right now. But Limited Run Games, volume for Vita, has been announced and will hopefully be available soon. And maybe we'll have some more to announce in the near future. But we have to, there's conversations and paperwork that
all the fun stuff
has to happen. It's time for reader mail. No,
You trying the jingle?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is we should have a meeting about the jingle. That's all I'm saying.
Reader mail. That's what it's time for.
I think it needs work. Work. If you've got an idea for no.
If you've got an idea for a jingle, please send it to contact@BithelGames.com. That's
please don't.
@BithelGames.com.
Please don't.
That's the reader mail jingle. Contact@BithelGames.com.
No.
This week's is a YouTube comment.
Cool.
And it is for Mike, no parenthetical, Alexander.
Oh, well, as it should be.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
What computer do you make games on? I'm an aspiring game dev, and I am very confused. Jermaine.
Oh, that's it. Okay. That's okay. So, any computer is the very immediate answer to that question. Any computer can be used to make video games. From a Raspberry Pi plugged into your television to a supercomputer. In terms of my setup, it's going to sound like I'm boasting. I've got lots of computers. So I have I have the computer I'm sat at right now, which is a very nice iMac, which is where I do most of my development work. I have a PC which I use for VR work.
But it's unusual for a game designer to work on a Mac, right? That's not
less so than it used to be. It used to be that a lot of the software, so Unreal Engine for the longest time was PC only, and some of the 3D software packages were Windows only, and bigger offices often it's more cost effective to have a lot of Windows PCs set up than Macs. But nowadays, Unity, Unreal, most of the art software is even easier to use on a Mac. So there's a lot of Macs being used now. It varies. Different studios have different ways of doing things, and to be honest, the software now is so universal that I'm just as happy working on a PC as a Mac. I slightly prefer the user interface on a Mac, but it really doesn't make a difference, and both kinds of things are possible for both. If you were using, I can think of a few situations like coders who are using Visual Studio for stuff, maybe that makes sense to be on Windows more than Mac, but generally either works. Macs are a bit more expensive though, so probably if you're just starting out, a Windows PC might be better. So yeah, I have a VR PC, which is minimum spec. I also have a Surface, which I use for note-taking and drawing and just general laptop use. But yeah, it doesn't really matter is the honest answer. You can get Unreal or Unity installed on any computer really. You want to obviously have a machine that can run games. But if your PC can run a decent AAA game at a reasonable frame rate, then you've got a good enough computer to make a game on. Beyond that, it really comes down to software, and it's about getting the graphics software, getting the engine, and getting kind of the more or less sexy parts of it, source control, everything set up. But yeah, I really, it's a great time in terms of the ubiquity of the software, and you can use anything.
I kind of want to stir the pot on this one.
Go for it.
So, I don't think this is so much the case anymore, but 10, 20 years ago, when a new PC title would come out, it would be it was very clear that the devs who made those games were creating them on supercomputers, computers that the average person would not have for several more years. I think of SimCity 2000 or anything Maxis related. I remember when we were getting the VR computer for you. You were very much about having minimum spec.
Yeah, it's the minimum. It was the published Oculus minimum spec was the PC I ended up getting, and we could have got something a bit better, but frankly, it's very important to make sure that the game will. The system spec is going to run. Now, often with game dev, you want a better machine than what you'll play on, because optimization tends to happen towards the end of a project, so you don't want to spend the entire dev working at like a low frame rate. I remember that was an issue with Volume. The first computer I used to work on Volume was a MacBook Pro, and it was about the target spec, but because I hadn't optimized anything, Volume on it ran about 15 frames a second, which meant that like the first trailer I ever released for Volume was actually rendered at very low frame rate and then artificially sped up in video software because my computer couldn't render 30 FPS. It's
shame.
It's alright, it's shipped to 60 frames a second, it's fine. Higher if you're on PC. So there is that. So I agree with you to an extent, but also if you're a developer, you often want better computing than what the final user will have. But at the point where you're nearly done, optimizing the hell out of it's always a good idea. There's never a reason not to optimize. Obviously, you need to look at what the kind of computers people who play the kinds of games that you're making have. Look at the minimum spec of a game that's maybe in the same genre or maybe appeals to the same audience, and look at that.
Oh, that's a good point. No, actually, I like that point. That look at the games that are out there that are similar to yours
at the point where you're launching as well. Don't look at a game that's about 3 years old, because obviously that'll be out of date information. But I know Thomas Was Alone, for example, is a game that's very popular with people with lower spec PCs, because Thomas Was Alone will run on anything. You don't need a very high spec computer to run Thomas Was Alone, and therefore that's definitely a game that's done better out of that kind of that lower spec kind of range. But no, in terms of what you would get for development, get whatever makes sense to you. And to be honest, if you're a PC gamer, you've probably already got a computer that can do most of what you need.
The big question really is, can it play Crysis?
What was I reading the other day? I was reading about how that was like that was something that everyone who works in that team hated. That Crysis was used as an example. It was something they were very upset that their game didn't run on lower spec machines. And rightly so. Yeah.
Because it didn't run on lower spec machines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've certainly appreciated. I think Blizzard does this as well. Blizzard making PC games for Mac, going back was also
way before everyone else did, right?
Yeah, that was also a big thing. So just when you're making games, I would also say like try to get it, unless you are genuinely trying to get the cutting edge audience. Look at what's on the market. Like look at what is the average PC that home players have, and try to target that.
And Steam actually have a really useful service where they do censuses. They do checks on every Steam user. And I think they publish some of that information publicly, so you can actually, what is the average computer? What's the average computer in the genre? Or what do your friends have? The people who you're making the game for always, I mean, this goes to much larger points about, thinking of your audience, but look into, what do your friends have? You might not have an amazing computer, but you can still make your game work well on amazing computers. So there's the point I've heard from several YouTubers where indie games often work really badly on very high-spec computers because they weren't made on high-spec computers. They don't really know how to use that stuff. So one of the things before Volume came out was I sent Volume to a couple of friends who had these ridiculous computers that you hear about. Utterly ridiculous computers.
like nitrogen, cooling everything.
Just to make sure, because you do hear horror stories about this. I can't remember which racing game it was, but there was a racing game that had tied the speed of its cars to the frame rate, and it was locked at 30 FPS or whatever, so it's fine. But obviously after it came out, someone did a mod or a hack on it that uncapped that frame rate, and it meant that players who were running these crazy rigs and could get up to 120 frames a second, their cars were moving at 4 times the speed they should. Stuff like that. It's very easy to leave that stuff in and not be aware of it. I remember in Thomas, a very early version of Thomas, we fixed it long before the game came out because we spotted it. But in Thomas, there was a bug where I tied gravity by mistake to frame rate. So you could jump higher on faster computers. And it was a very strange bug where I would just notice it every now and again. Or in my case, I'd notice it if I had a few windows open on my computer that I couldn't make jumps anymore. And it was this really weird kind of ghost in the machine thing where you're like, am I imagining this? Am I imagining? But if I had a couple of applications open on my then awful Mac that I was using to make Thomas Was Alone, the characters wouldn't be able to jump as far. We had it even more recently with Volume. We had an animation bug that only occurred if the game ran at 60 frames a second. And my computer at home could only manage about 45 frames a second on Volume until we optimized it. So it was only, literally showed up, I think it was at Res in London, showed up at this event, installed it on the sponsor, had provided an amazing computer for it. And every character in the game, the walk cycle was broken. And
there was a lot of Alexander. Can you load this up on your computer and check to see if the bug is gone?
I was running. We had Roper, who was the coder, literally running. He did a new build, put it on a USB drive, and then caught a train to the venue in order to get us. And it was fine, but these things do happen. So testing on higher spec machines than you have is very, very important. It'll save you a lot of embarrassment on launch day.
If you have a burning question about games, game development, or just about the complexities of the universe, you can send those questions to us via contact@BithelGames.com. That's contact@BithelGames.com, where we also take jingles.
We don't take jingles. There's no jingle competition. I can't make this any more clear.
Or through the YouTube comments of this show, or on Twitter by pinging @MikeBithell, or @Slewinski, or @Volume Game. Our AI likes some attention every so often. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bithell Games Podcast. We can always use your support, so please provide reviews and 5 stars on iTunes, likes and subscribes on YouTube, and positive reinforcement on whatever other platforms you're hearing this show on whenever possible. I have no idea if Google Play Music has some kind of yay button, but if it does, press the yay button. This podcast was produced by Jonathan Downen. We'll be back next week. I'm Alexander Slewinski. Thanks again, and get in the last word, Mike.
Switch.